to my channel. In today's video we're going to keep going with this ear. Now I'm hoping that we'll finish this ear in this part. If we don't, we don't, but the goal is to hopefully finish the ear, and then we've only got like another 2 parts left to finish this piece. Everything you need is listed in the description below, including the paper I'm using, the pencils that I've used in this part of the tutorial, and links to previous parts. If you've got any questions, do let me know. The reference photo is linked below. Line art is found on my Facebook group. I think that's all I need to say. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. I'd love you to join us over here. I do full-length tutorials every month, mainly of dogs at the moment, but there will be other animals coming soon. Yeah, I'm going to zoom you in and let's just get started on this ear. So this part of the ear, especially along here, can get quite complicated. We're just going to take it step by step, mapping in curls, taking our time. Remembering that it doesn't matter if our curls aren't the same as the reference photo. We just want to get that resemblance of it being a really curly ear. Curls being in a similar place, similar direction, but they don't need to be exact to the reference photo. So what I'm going to do first is just lift some of this graphite with a putty eraser just to lighten it, because remember, I'm not worried too much if it's not the exact same. And then what we're going to do is we're going to map in some of these curls, and we're just going to take it step by step, easy, slowly if we need to go slow, and start building up this ear. So I've got my Nougat, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to map in some shapes. So at the bottom here I can see that there's a curl coming sort of around here, and there's a clump of fur here. And this is all I'm going to do now, is I'm just going to come in and I'm just going to draw in the shapes that I see, so where these curls are going. And remember, I'm not worried about this being the same as the reference photo. As long as the fur's going in the same direction, I'm happy with that. I don't have to get the curls the same. I'm also going to just take my Walnut Brown and any darker bits of fur, so like the shadows, I'm just going to pop them in with the Walnut Brown very lightly. I'm not pressing hard, just light pressure here. And that's just going to help when it comes to adding in some of the shadows within the piece itself. So I'm just going to sort of bring this up here more. And we've got some little curls coming down here and around here. So if you just slightly map out, don't press hard with your paper, with your pencil. You just want to use light pressure. So I've got like a bit of a darker section here. And this is just going to help us when it like comes to drawing in these curls. We've kind of mapped them out, and then it'll just be a matter of like looking at the area nearby and seeing what the colours are to build up our curls. So I'm just sort of like looking at the reference photo, seeing where some of the curls are that I have drawn in, and then I'm just going to map in just the shapes that I'm seeing. Again, I'm not worried if it's not exact. I just want sort of like the shape of the ears to be similar, the curls to be going in the right direction, but I'm not mad, I'm not annoyed if it's not the same as the reference photo. Using the Walnut Brown to map in these shadows. So you can miss curls, you can add curls, and I know I've said this before, but every time this dog moved her ears in between these photos that we're drawing from, the curls will have moved position. So as long as you're getting the colour as accurate as you can, obviously we've made her a little bit redder, but you want to get colours similar, you want to get the curls going in the correct direction. As long as that's all accurate, then you're winning. Like, you've got nothing to worry about. So all I'm doing is just like mapping in the shapes of these curls. And I think actually that I may, now that I've got some of it mapped in, I think I'm going to start building up this part of the ear. So I'm going to take my ivory. So I'm going to apply ivory as a base layer in these curls. And we're just going to start building up the curls on her ear now. So I'm just going to take my Nougat, build up that little bit of curl there. And then I want the red violet, taking the red violet, coming into this curl here, to just darken up that little bit of a shadow. And then I'm taking the burnt umber, underneath here, and bringing it down into her ear here. I'll then take the Caput Mortuum and go over that burnt umber. So you can see, even looking at this part of the ear, like, this looks so complicated, and we drew that. It's just about building it up slowly, curl by curl, section by section, but be proud, you drew this ear. I know Spaniel ears are really complicated, but just look at what you've managed to create already. It's awesome. I think the Walnut Brown. And it's just celebrating those little wins, like looking at a piece and going, you know what? Yeah, I did create that. I did draw that ear. I am doing this ear. It's little wins. The burnt umber. And then over the top of that, I'm just going to take the cinnamon. There we go, that's another couple of curls added. So you can see it's not taking much at all, just the burnt umber again. Just going to darken here. Like, we're building up this ear, curl by curl, and once you've got these curls in, like, it adds to this complicated ear, but you've just done it section by section. Like, it's not taking you much to be able to do this. So back to the ivory. Another clumps of fur. So it's literally, we're just doing it clump by clump, not worrying if we've not got the curls the same to the reference photo. We're just following the fur direction. And everything will be okay. So I'm going now with the Dyck Brown. And then taking the Caput Mortuum. Trying to make sure you stay in focus. And then the burnt sienna. And then I'm just going to take the burnt umber over the top of that. Back to this Walnut Brown. I'm just going to map in this shadow here. We know that all that's just going to blend nicely outwards, and I'm just going to darken here. Sorry, and here. So I'm looking at my own drawing and just seeing where do I just need a little bit more shadow. I might just see if I can zoom you in a bit more and it'll stop that focus. Okay, so I've just done this curl and I've realised it wasn't recording, it stopped recording. So what I did to build up this curl was started with the Caput Mortuum, went on top of the Caput Mortuum with the burnt Sienna, then on top of that with the burnt Umber, following this curl direction. I've then used the Dyck Brown as a shadow here and along here. And then I've blended all of that together with the cinnamon to harder pressure to get the cinnamon to blend. And then gone back over with the Dyck Brown for the shadows here. And then I've just come in with the slice tool and just added some flyaway hairs and some highlights with the slice tool. But you don't have to do that bit, that's just if you want to. I'm not quite sure why my camera stopped recording then, but I'm sorry that it did. But that's basically how I built up that curl. So back to the ivory as a base layer. Okay, so I'm then going to come in with the red violet. Again, light pressure, I'm not pressing hard, just going to get a covering of this red violet into this curl. Keep making sure that it is actually recording. I don't know why it stopped. And then the burnt umber at the top to create a shadow. And we want to darken this middle bit ever so slightly there. So you can see just how light the pressure is, like we're not pressing hard at all. And then the Caput Mortuum. And then I'm going to go over the top of all that with the Nougat. A bit of a harder pressure now. Okay, take the dark sepia and I'm just going to come in, blend that shadow out and here, and then go back to the red violet and over the top. And then we take the cinnamon over the top of all of that. To help with that blending. And then I'm just going to take this Walnut Brown and I'm just going to build up that shadow here. And down here. So I want to make sure that I've got those shadows in. And then if I take like the slice tool, I could bring like a loose hair over the top here. I could lighten here, add in a bit of lightness, flyaway hair there. And just adding these little details just adds a bit more depth. And then I could take like that walnut brown and just come in around that slice tool. And it's just going to add a bit more depth to the piece. But there's another curl. So do you see, just by doing these curls, this area looks really complicated. But we've just done it curl by curl, section by section. So breaking it down into easier areas like that is really going to help you. So we'll just keep doing that. So back to the ivory here. We've got this curl mapped in, so we'll finish this curl. Burnt sienna. Over the top of that with a Caput Mortuum, bringing that colour down. And then I'm going to take the cinnamon because it's quite a lighter area here, so I'm going to just make sure we don't go too dark, so I'm going to add in that cinnamon. And then I'm going to go back to the Caput Mortuum, and I'm just going to add in a little detail at the bottom of this curl. So just darken the bottom of that curl there. And then make it look like it's being tucked under that other curl, and that part of the curl is coming further down. Okay. Okay, and then I'm going to take my Dyck Brown here. Go over that with the burnt sienna. And then the burnt umber. Back to the burnt sienna. And there's another little section of curl mapped in. So you can see it's not taking us long at all, but we are getting there with this piece now. So down to this bottom curl, so back to the ivory as a base layer. So I have said that next month's going to be a Dalmatian. There's going to be a Siberian Husky tutorial as well. I've had requests for a Husky tutorial. I do draw a lot of Huskies, so after the Dalmatian, I think we're going to draw Siberian Husky. Right, so coming in here, I am going to take the burnt sienna first. Following that third direction. Like so. Then I'm going to take the Caput Mortuum and bring that in and around here. The Dyck Brown over the top of that. It's going to bring that depth to this part of the curl. And then the Nougat. And then go back over that with the burnt sienna. So we're not far off this tutorial being finished. I'm just going to grab the burnt umber. So I hope that you have enjoyed this one. I know it's been a really complicated one. I know the ears aren't easy. But I still hope that you've enjoyed it and that you've learned something. And then Dalmatian next month's a bit easier. Some white for Caput Mortuum. And that's another curl done. Okay, so I am just going to bring my Nougat back in. And I'm just going to map in this curl that I can kind of see here. So there's like... Oh, sorry, excuse me. I've got a curl coming down. And that's curling it. Okay, so then back to the ivory. Along here. Now we're getting some lighter areas in amongst this darker bit. So I'm going to take the red violet, where we've got this shadow, and add the red violet. And then go over that shadow with the walnut brown. then going to take the burnt sienna and just follow the curve of this clump of fur. So remember, we're looking at these curls as clumps. We're just drawing each different clump of fur. That's why we're not drawing individual hair strokes, we're just drawing the clumps. And then I'm going to take the Nougat and go over that. And then back to the burnt sienna. And followed by the cinnamon, especially at the end of this curl. I want that to be lighter. And then I'll just take the Walnut Brown and just darken up this clump. Okay. And I'm just going to take the burnt umber. And then I just want to darken in here a bit more. So as I'm darkening up other parts of the ear, I can see the way I just want a few more darker tones. So I'm just going to use the burnt umber. Just in these little bits. And it's just going to add a bit more depth and darkness. Only very sporadically in areas where I just feel like there's not enough shadow going on. And again, this is me now looking at my piece as a whole and going, okay, this area needs shadow. Where else needs shadow? This isn't me looking at the reference photo and going, oh, I've missed a whole bit of shadow. This is me looking at my piece and going, okay, this isn't dark enough, I need a shadow here. This bit isn't dark enough, we need a shadow here. So I'm doing this with a burnt umber. A bit of a harder pressure and just going over some of the areas. And that's just going to bring out those shadows even more and add a bit more contrast to the piece as a whole. So I'm a lot happier with that now. So I'm taking the Ivory again and I'm just going to fill in this base layer here. Making sure I've got a nice base layer there, and I'm just going to do this curl as well because I'll be able to move down onto this curl and this clump of fur afterwards. So it just means that we can just move straight onto it. Again, you could always wait to do this base layer. You don't have to do it at the same time. I just being different. Okay. I'm then taking the Walnut Brown because we've got a shadow. So we've got a clump of fur here that's acting as a shadow. So I'm just going to map that in with this Walnut Brown. Here, bring that up a bit further up there. And just press hard pressure just to really darken this shadow up. We want that to look like a shadow, so I am pressing harder now. I'm just going to darken that bit there. Okay, so that's given us a nice clump of fur there, which is now a shadow. I'm then going to come in with the red violet. Bring that down. And around here we've got like a nice light clump of fur there. And that clump coming across here as well. So this is all just with the red violet. I'm just mapping out shapes. And then I'm going to take the burnt umber and just map out in here. Very light pressure. You can just see how light that pressure is. Then going back to my burnt sienna now. And we're just going to bring this burnt sienna in along here. And the Caput Mortuum. Okay, then I'm going to pick up the Nougat, go over where we've got this burnt umber. Now you can see that my pencil strokes, for this clump of fur, they were coming sort of down and around. With this clump of fur, they're actually going to the side. They're going in a different direction, and we want to make sure that we pick up on that. And then back to the burnt umber. Again, going to that different side. And then I'll pick up the Caput Mortuum. And then I'm going to take the Walnut Brown very lightly, create that definition across the top here, and then just bring in some definition lines along here. And then I'm going to take the cinnamon along the top of those two lighter areas, and then go back to this Walnut Brown and just create some little lines just for that little fur direction, and to establish that this fur is going in a different direction. I'm actually just going to take the dark sepia very lightly just to help map in some of those clumps. Okay, so coming down to this clump of fur in the bottom, I've got my red violet, and again just following fur direction for this clump of fur. Light layers, just building up the fur direction. And then over the top of that with the burnt sienna. And then I'm going to take my Caput Mortuum violet, and with the Caput Mortuum I'm just going to bring it down along here. And it's really going to intensify the colours in this part of the ear really nicely. And then over the top of that with the Nougat. And then back to the burnt umber. Just to darken up again. And then anywhere where it's not getting dark enough, I am going to take my Paynes Grey. So I'm taking the Paynes Grey and I'm just going where we've got those shadows, and I'm using the Paynes Grey, medium pressure, I'm not pressing too hard, just to build up those shadows in here and along here. Anywhere where I just want to darken it up a little bit, just use that Paynes Grey. So, and again I'm going to take the burnt sienna, bring it down here, my Caput Mortuum violet, darkening up little sections of this clump, and then the red violet. And then back to the burnt sienna. So again, it's just a bit of back and fro in between the colours to build up these layers. And then I'm going to grab the burnt umber where I've got those shadows, in with this burnt umber. And then because this is a lighter area, I'm just going to take the cinnamon and just blend over the top. It's going to give us that really nice bleached look to the fur, that really bright orangey colour. Like so. Okay, so we're now getting onto this part of the ear where there's quite a lot going on. But we're just going to take it slowly, and I think the best way to do this is to work from the bottom upwards, because a lot of this hair is overlapping this bottom part of the ear, so I think the best way to go is bottom upwards, and then we can get the hair underneath in before doing the hair on top. Although I do kind of want to get this one curl in. I may get these curls in first. I think we're going to do that first, get those curls in and then go from there. So I'm just picking up my Nougat, and I know that this is like the dark section of this curl that's coming in, and this is like a darker bit going into two sections here. So what I know is I've got a bit of a clump of fur coming down here and around like this, and then that clump of fur is going down. So it's like a nice big line of fur. That bit's curling over. We've got a bit of fur coming out here, and then it's curling down. And then we've got a nice long clump of fur here. With lots of different shapes going on inside there, but that's the general shape there. So I'm just going to bring this clump of fur round here. And another one here. So I'm just mapping in the shape there. Now this is where it starts getting really complicated. Actually, I think I've brought that a bit too far down, but that's fine. So I'm just trying to work out the best way forward to help you guys as well. Okay, what I'm going to do is, I know here is the edge of the collar, and I can see on the reference photo by the collar that we have a clump of fur coming down here. So I'm just going to map in that clump of fur. And that's coming in sort of down here as well. And you've got all these clumps of fur sort of coming around here. Now these pencil marks with the Nougat, I'm using very light pressure. They won't be accurate. I'm not too worried. I'm just trying to map in the shape of this ear, so that we don't get too confused. And also, like, if I bring in this neck, it's just going to sort of bring in some of that. And then the ears sort of coming around here. Okay, so we've got the general shape now mapped in very, very lightly. I'm not worried if it's not correct, but I now have the general shape of the ear and what we've got left to draw in. Okay, so now that I've kind of mapped in the shape of the ear, I can see that we have some curls coming over here, which then makes way for the curls that are underneath the fur. So to map them in, I'm just going to take the Nougat again, and I'm just going to map in, like, we've got some curls here coming over, some little curls, and then we've got these like really curly curls mapped in here. So I'm just going to sort of pencil line that curl in. Again, if I miss a curl, I'm not worried. It's my interpretation of this ear. I just want it to look like it is a curly spaniel ear, so I'm not worried about it being exact. I'd like it to be fairly similar, but it's not. At the end of the day, it's not. It's going to be a spaniel ear. It's got its own curls going on, and I'm okay with that. That's fine. So I'm now going to take so I've got some like random curls mapped in here. So I'm just going to take my Walnut Brown, and this is a shadow that I've mapped in, and this is a shadow. So I'm just coming in with a Walnut Brown and mapping in the fact that they're little shadows. So I'm now going to take my Ivory, and I'm just going to apply this as a base layer along here. And down this curl, because I know this is a big one. Now, I know this ear is getting really complicated, but like I've repeated many times, please don't worry if your curls aren't the same as mine, if my curls aren't the same as yours, they're not the same as the reference photo. As long as we're getting the resemblance of the curls and we're getting the general look to the curls and the feel, your ear's going to turn out looking realistic. And I will do like I did in the last tutorial. I will zoom out and I'll show you how this ear's looking. Even though we're not finished, you'll see as soon as I zoom out, we're going to look like we've got a realistic looking ear. So here's the piece zoomed out, and do you see how even though my curls aren't the exact same as the reference photo, I am still getting a realistic look. So I'm not worried if my curls aren't the exact same as the reference photo. And obviously at the end, once we've got in the rest of this ear, I will zoom back out and we will have a look at the ear as a whole. But you can see already that we've still got the look of this ear, and it looks like the curls are flowing nicely down this ear. So please, 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 I know it's going to be a big worry of everyone. Don't worry. Just get some curls in, get them following the general direction, but don't worry if it's not the exact same. Okay, so I've zoomed you back in, and I'm going to start off with this long strip of fur, and I'm going to come in with the Nougat, and I'm just going to follow this. I'm using longer pencil strokes now because we have the fur here is quite long. It's quite a long curl that we're following. So I'm just going to bring this Nougat all the way down. Again, I'm not really focusing on any details, I'm just building up the colour. So just a couple of light layers of that Nougat at first. I'm then going to go over the top with the burnt umber. Making sure that I'm following this fur direction at all times. And you can see now that we've started to get a little bit of definition. Just by building up these layers, we're just slowly getting that colour within the fur. And then I've got the Caput Mortuum violet. And I'm going to keep it quite, not too dark at the edges, but darker, because it isn't as light as up here. So I'm just going to use that Caput Mortuum violet, sorry. This is the violet one, so we're getting that reddish purplish tone coming through here. And then I'm going to go back over the top of that with the Nougat. And then taking the Indian red just over the top. And it's really going to add that extra bit of warmth into this ear. And then I'm going to grab my Walnut Brown and just darken some of these little shadows that have sort of come around. Again, I'm not worried if it's not the same. A little bit there. Now, we do have a lot of flyaway hairs on the end of this ear, but I'm not going to draw them in yet. We're going to get the neck in, obviously on the next part of the tutorial, will be the neck. Once we've got this neck in, we'll add the flyaway hairs from this part of the hair. So don't worry that you haven't got them drawn in yet. They will be added. Okay, I'm now going back to my Caput Mortuum. And I'm bringing this Caput Mortuum down and around here. Very light pressure again. I'm not pressing hard, just nice and lightly. So already I can see I need to darken here. So I'm just going to take my Paynes Grey and I'm just going to very lightly just darken the sides here. And then go over the top of that with a Caput Mortuum violet. And that's just going to give us that differentiation that this is a different clump of fur. So I'm always making sure that all these clumps are separate. Right, before I come back up here, I'm just taking my copper and I want this curl just to be mapped out with the copper. I'd just seen these coppery tones, so as soon as I seen them, I was like, I want to get them in now. Sometimes it is like that. If you see a tone that you just really want to map in first, get it mapped in. It doesn't matter if you're working over here. Map in that tone that you can see. So like here, I've seen that I wanted this to be a copper, so I've just mapped that in with the copper. I'm then going to pick up my burnt sienna and I'm just coming back to this curl where I was and just mapping this in with the burnt sienna. Bringing that curl back around here. Then taking my Dyck Brown. Just to darken along here. And then the cinnamon. Along here. Like so. So I'm going to take my copper again and I'm just going to bring it along this curl. And I'm going to use these as like my really light curls that I can see going on. So I'm going to take my burnt umber and I'm just going to build up this shadow here. And this shadow. So I'm just mapping in some of these curls that I can see. Again, I'm not worrying that it's not exactly the reference photo. I'm just making sure it's similar. Then taking the Nougat and I'm just building this up as a layer. Very light pressure, you can see I'm building, all of this is being built up really slowly. No rush. There's no rush at all. And then back, oh, the Walnut Brown. Try not to chuck your pencils about. That isn't part of the tutorial. I'm just going to follow this. And I'm just darkening up some of the shadowed areas. Like so. And then taking the light red violet. Very light pressure, I'm not pressing hard. And I'm just going to bring this over this curl. And this one. It's very light pressure. Like I say, I'm not pressing hard at all. I'm then going to take my burnt sienna. A bit more of a medium pressure now. Trying to start building up the colour and getting rid of the grain a bit more. Down into here as well. And taking my Dyck Brown for this bit here, which is like the shadows. Making sure that we keep it darker. Keep these clumps of fur looking like the separate clumps of fur, but part of the same ear. Then going back to the Nougat. Very lightly because I want these to still be quite light areas, but I'm just going to use the Nougat over the top of those purple and copper tones, and then I'm going to take the cinnamon. No, I'm going to take the Ivory actually. I'm going to use the Ivory because we want this to be quite light. We can darken it up afterwards, but this is just going to help blend those colours together. Okay, so it's going to sound weird, but I'm now coming back down to the bottom because I know that this area is dark, so Ivory, and I'm kind of bringing it up to sort of where I know there's this dark shadow, which is like under here. So I know I've not really drawn it out, but I'm just going to map in this kind of corner of the ear. Sorry if it keeps moving. I'm trying to keep the paper still. Okay, bringing this in here. Right, so grab the Walnut Brown and I can see that there is a shadow here. So I've got like a shadow coming here and it comes down and it's going off that direction. So I'm just going to sort of map in that it's going off in that direction here. And then we've got sort of some curls coming here. I'm going to map in a darker section here. And then we've got these curls sort of coming in this direction. So I'm kind of ignoring my pencil guidelines now. Using the Nougat. And I'm just going to bring in the fur in this direction. It's kind of going in that direction, and then it comes around here. Okay, and then I'm going to take the Caput Mortuum. We've got some really curly fur here, so I'm just going to kind of map in some of these curls that are going on here. Again, not too worried about making sure it's exactly the same. I'm bringing off curls sort of coming over. So there's going to be a bit of tape action going on and some slice tool action, depending which you're using. I'm just going to add this base layer in. Here, we're going to build up this crazy corner of fur. I'm making sure I've got a really good base layer down as well, because I do want to use the slice tool. So I'm going to want to make sure that I've got enough layer of the ivory down. Then back to this Caput Mortuum and coming back in sort of around here. Curl coming down here. So just mapping in some curls, some shapes of these curls with this Caput Mortuum. And bringing that way. And then down here, sort of bringing in a curl. Another curl there, and then that's kind of underneath the coat. So you can see I've just added in some curls, we've just got some general shapes, and now it's just a matter of building them up. So I'm going to go back to my Nougat. And I'm going to bring the Nougat in on this curl and this curl. So I'm kind of working on these two curls together, but they're going to be separate clumps of curls. So I'm just a couple of layers, light layers of the Nougat. Now I am taking the Indian red and I'm going to bring it on this curl. So this ear might not be as curly, our drawing ear may not be as curly as the reference photo, but that is fine. And then I'm going to take the burnt sienna. We may have to do another spaniel in the future. We may be not as crazy in here. This is a crazy ear. And then go back over that with the Nougat. And then I'm just going to grab the I'm going to grab the Caput Mortuum Violet. And I just want to darken here, so that using this as like the shadow. And I'm just going to darken here. And then I'm just going to knock that purplish tone back with the Paynes Grey. So I'm still getting a nice shadow, but it's not as purpley red in your face kind of colour. Okay, and then I'm just going to pick the Nougat up again, add another layer here. So we're going back to this curl now. Then the copper. And then I'm going to take the Caput Mortuum and go over the top of all of that. And then if I pick up my Walnut Brown and run it along the side here where I've got some shadow showing, and down there, just kind of build up some shadows. We've got some nice shadows showing. And then if you take your tape, if you're using tape or your slice tool, like along here, I can just sort of bring in some nice little highlights and some loose hairs, where we've got some loose hairs going on, some hairs going over the top, and then like down here, I can just bring some little hairs, like I've got a hair coming into that face there. Bring one coming down there, and just this is kind of bringing in some extra highlights and extra details. Now you could do this at the very end, like once you've got all these layers in. I'm just wanting to add a little bit of detail now and kind of as I go along with the slice tool. See, I could even add in, like here I've added in like another curl. And then here I'm just going to bring like that. I don't know what that mark is. A bit of a razor there. Okay, right. Let's keep going as we come down her ear. So I'm taking the Indian red into here. My Caput Mortuum violet as the shadow. And then I'm going to take the brown ochre just into this corner here, and then back to that Caput Mortuum and acting as a shadow. Like so. So you can see now we're starting to get this nice shape to these curls, and she's coming on quite nicely. The Caput Mortuum violet, this is a curl that's in the shadows, so I'm going to use the Caput Mortuum violet and then go over that with the burnt umber. So this section of our ear might not be as curly or as crazy curly as the reference photo, but we've still got a nice sort of curl going on. I'm just going to bring my slice tool in and add in a little highlight here, some more like definition. Okay. Yeah, I'm quite pleased with this ear. We're nearly there. Now taking my burnt sienna again, and we're just going to build up some of these curls here that I've got mapped in. If I take my burnt umber just for those shadows, and then back over with the burnt sienna. And then I'm also going to go over that with the Indian red. And then the walnut brown for these darker tones. I need to just bring back in, and I'm going to make that curl here a shadow. So again, I'm making it my piece. What curls do I want to be shadows? What curls are okay at staying light? And that's fine to do that, especially when you're doing like an original piece like we are here. This is cinnamon, just over the top. I'm really not worried that it's not the exact same for this spaniel. I think if I do a spaniel in the future, I'll show you how I would do it if I was doing it for a client, how I would make it as accurate as possible. But because this is original, I'm not worrying about it. Okay, so I am going to take the burnt sienna I'm just going to give it a quick sharpen, oops, without opening the sharpener all over myself, preferably. Right, the burnt sienna, and I'm going to bring this curl in now. Again, it's quite a big curl, probably not as accurate to the reference photo as it could be, and it's going to curl around. But like I say, I just want a nice curly ear that looks like a spaniel ear. So I'm not too fussed if it's not as accurate as it could be. And I'm going to bring this in here as well. So this might be a longer part of the tutorial, but I do want to get this ear in. Okay, that's the burnt sienna. And then I'm going to take the Caput Mortuum. Then to the Indian red for this curl. Making sure I press record. I had a feeling then I hadn't again. I don't know what it is today, just not with it. That's the Indian red. And then I'm going to take the red violet. I want this to be a shadow, so I'm coming in with a red violet here. Darkening this area up. And I'm going to darken the corner of this curl as well. And then I'm going to grab the burnt umber. Just along the edges to add a bit of a shadow. And then we go with the cinnamon and blend these colours together nicely. So you can see it's not taking us that long, and then you could come in with your tape again or your slice tool, and we can add some more curls. So we can bring in like a bit of hair coming across here, bring that curl back around here. So it's just about adding like little, you're using the slice tool or the tape method to just add in like extra little details, little wispy hairs that have been sort of like blown all over the place. I'm just going to do it down here as well. So, right, so we're getting there. Right, let's add, I'm going to add ivory across the whole of this base layer that's left to be covered in ivory. And we're just going to start building this part of the ear up. Oops, and I've just opened the sharpener all over myself. Build the rest of this ear up, and then we have a completed curly ear. So just bring in your ivory now. So I know it's been a really big ear to draw in. Spaniel ears do tend to be quite large. You tend to have quite a lot of spaniel ear to draw. And I'm going to bring it down here as well. So we have one more ear to draw. We have the back of the ear here, which isn't as large. Obviously isn't as large a surface as this one. So hopefully we're all going to be masters now at spaniel ears, and we'll know exactly what to do. So making sure we've got a nice good thick layer of the ivory, so we can use the tape or the slice tool to go on top of. Right, so I'm looking at my reference photo and I can see that down here is a little bit darker. So I'm going to take my burnt umber, and we've kind of going to bring it up here, and this area down here is like a nice dark clump of fur. So got almost like a triangle here, and I'm just going to make sure that I'm following that fur direction. And I'm just going to cover this section here with the burnt umber. Now we can add in other colours on top of this afterwards. And now I'm just going to sort of map in a few curls as well. So like a curl coming across here. That's kind of got a curl made up there. And sort of like a curl here. So we've got like different sections of curls made up. It's following the fur direction. It might not be accurate to the reference photo, but it's fine. As long as we're following that fur direction, it's going to be okay. Now I'm going to bring in my Walnut Brown and darken this section. And I'm going to bring this kind of around here as well, very lightly. I'm not pressing hard there, but I can see that that's a dark shape here, and I'm going to darken this bit up as well. And then bringing in the Nougat over the top. Okay, going in this curl here with the Indian red. Keep making sure that all the colours are similar, but it is an Indian red colour. And then taking the Caput Mortuum, and this is going to just add in some details and darken that curl up. And I'm going to take the burnt umber again. Over the top here. Okay. Taking the copper, because this is quite a lighter colour here, so taking the copper. And then over the top of the copper, take the brown ochre. Okay. Back in with the Caput Mortuum. And then the burnt umber. I'm then going to take my burnt sienna, just to really darken this little section of fur up. Oops, sorry about that noise, I'm knocking stuff. Okay, now taking the light red violet down in here, I'm just going to bring that light red violet. So I know I'm working a bit all over the place, but I'm just sort of bringing this here together. So that's the light red violet down the bottom of this ear there. Got the cinnamon, and I'm just going to blend that section that we've just done with the cinnamon. Now taking the Dyck Brown. Coming over the top of this part of the ear now. So this section we're just sort of really building up slowly. Just building up all those colours that we can see. And then I'm going to take the Caput Mortuum violet over the top. Okay, and then back to the burnt sienna, especially for the tips of this ear. And then I'm going to use that cinnamon, as usual, just to blend this all in. Sorry if you can hear my stomach. I don't know if it's loud enough for it to be picked up, but it is really having a party. Okay, we're nearly there. Right, I'm now picking up the red violet. I'm just going to sharpen this ever so slightly. Okay, it's sharpened. And I'm going to start on this curl, so I'm going to bring in this red violet along here. And then the burnt sienna. Followed by the Caput Mortuum. And then I'm going to take the brown ochre over the top, especially towards the ends, rather than right in that shadow area, just mainly the ends of this piece. And then pick up the Walnut Brown again. So I know this ear, I know the whole dog has been a lot of swapping and changing between colours, but hopefully you can see how, if I was doing this myself as a commission, how I would build up those colours slowly. And this is exactly what I'd be doing. I'd just be swapping and changing between colours. This is Van Dyck Brown. There probably is an easier and quicker way if you want your pieces to be quicker. Use methods that work for you. This is just the method that works for me. Okay, nearly there. We are nearly there. We nearly have an ear. I hope you're all excited. So, picking up the Caput Mortuum this time. I'm going to bring that Caput Mortuum down here. So again, this is like another big clump of fur, and I'm just going to bring that Caput Mortuum up there. And then my burnt umber. Very lightly. You can see just how light this layer is. It's not dark at all yet. And then I'm going to go over this darker shadow first with the red violet. So I'm going to use a bit of a harder pressure here, red violet. And then take my Caput Mortuum again over the top of all this. A bit of a harder pressure now. Really building up that colour. And just making sure that I'm getting that nice separation between the curls. And then I'm going to take the Ivory, and I'm just going to use the Ivory here to help with that blend. And then the Caput Mortuum just to darken once again. And I'm going to take the Paynes Grey. Okay, picking up the burnt sienna, and this section I'm just going to press fairly hard. I do want this to be almost just burnt sienna in colour, so I'm just going to press harder with that burnt sienna there. And then as we come down into this ear, I'm going to cover this section with burnt sienna, not pressing too hard. The Caput Mortuum violet, oops, stuck on something, to act as a shadow. And then go back over that with the burnt sienna. Okay, I'm going to take my cinnamon, and I do need to sharpen this. This is really blunt. Just give my cinnamon a quick sharpen. Okay. And I'm just going to, oops, where we've got this copper, bring that cinnamon across the top of that copper. Add a bit more colour into there. Okay, my Caput Mortuum violet, and I'm just going to darken that bit there. Right, last little curl. So I've got my red violet, and I'm going to bring this down from the top. I'm then going to take my, what am I going to take? Let me have a look at these colours. I think I'm going to take my burnt sienna. Oops. Very lightly with the burnt sienna. And then I'm going to go over that with the burnt ochre, just on the edge here. And then take the Indian red. Then go back to that red violet. and then take the cinnamon, go over the top. Okay, and I'm just going to take the cinnamon over the top here as well. Right, and then I'm going to grab this Paynes Grey, and I can just see like this area needs to be darker, and I'm just going to sort of get some darker tones and shadows being built up. And the easiest way is with this Paynes Grey, especially along here. Just any little areas, and this can be to your own choosing. Like, do you have a curl? Can you, when you look at your piece, is there a curl that stands out to you? Curls that maybe need that little bit more definition. Make the piece your own. Don't be scared to do it. Make it your own. So I've just added in some of the Paynes Grey, and then I'm going to come in with my slice tool, and I'm just going to add in some extra curlers. So I can see there's like a curl here, so I'm going to bring in a lighter curl, and I'm going to bring in another curl sort of along here, and then sort of giving just a lighter highlights along here. And just by doing this, I'm just adding, oops, more dimension to the piece. So I'm just sort of looking, where can I add little extra curls, little extra lines. And it's this part that's going to make it look like you've drawn like this super complicated ear, but you've added in all these sections afterwards. Like so. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with that ear. There's not a lot I want to change at the moment with this. So let me zoom you out, and you will see how we've managed to create a realistic looking spaniel ear. So here we go. I know it's been a bit of a long tutorial, but look at that. We've got a spaniel ear. So I hope you've enjoyed this part. I know it has been long, but we've managed to finish an ear. The next part is going to be the neck and the back of the ear here, which hopefully won't take us as long because it's quite dark. We just build up the dark shadows like we've done in other areas. If you haven't already, please subscribe. I'd love you to join and follow along as we do more tutorials in the future. And I will see you all in the next part. Bye everybody.